Okay, this is Fred, the real chapter 14, because I called the last one chapter 14 when it was chapter 13. This chapter is called Start the Machine. Okay, this is... Now, you will remember that the ice cream machine had a lever right here, and that the lever had all these settings along the side, which would be like right here, but I drew it over here so you could see it. And it started with 1, 2, 3, those settings not too cold, 4, 5, maybe medium cold, 6, 7, fairly cold, 9 was cold, and 10 was cold beyond belief. Well, Fred put it between about, let's see, about 9 is where he put the lever, which is between cold and cold beyond belief. And the ice cream maker, it started to rumble as the refrigeration part started to turn on, and Fred kept reading because remember he had some rules. Step 1 in the last chapter was to plug in the machine. Step 2 was to pull down the freezing lever to set the coldness. So now he set it right here at 9. And now he has step 3, which is pour in all the ingredients and flip the stir switch. So step 3 is pour in the ingredients and flip the stir switch. So we have our ingredients there, and that's step 3. Okay, so Joe was standing there, and so Fred asked him if he would help him pour in the 50 gallons of milk, the bags of sugar, the gallon of vanilla, and Joe said yes, and Fred then went in search of the stir switch. So Fred started to look for the stir switch, and there was a front panel that had all these doodads and gadgets and dials, but he couldn't find any switches on this front panel. He looked on the side of the ice cream maker, and it just had a serial number plate. So on the side it was the model number, which was 396263XLM39-559-B. There was also a serial number, which was 566-894-131-385-156-344-886-4600068.4546. So you'll need to memorize both those numbers. Just kidding. That wouldn't be any fun. But it's kind of funny. Okay, so Fred looks around the ice cream maker, and about 5 centimeters from the floor, and 5 centimeters equals 2 inches, so it's the same one, 5 centimeters, 2 inches. He finds this little lever. He's going to flip it on. The ground's going to shake, and the machine begins to stir the ingredients together. So he finds the little lever, and the ground is shaking, and now we're ready for step 4. Wait. So the instructions are, when the bells ring and the lights flash, the ice cream will be ready. So there was this handy little chart that read, for the lever set at 9, and Fred left it at 9, if you're making ice cream for 40 people, wait 3 minutes. If you're making it for 280 people, wait 21 minutes. What? Thought Fred, that's a silly chart. It's so small. The machine is supposed to make ice cream for up to 800 people. Why doesn't the chart list 800 people? Fred looked at the clock and saw that it was 3:20. He had 40 minutes until 4 o'clock, and that's when he needed the ice cream to be done. It would make a big difference if the bells rang and the lights flashed in the middle of his speech, or at 10 o'clock at night when everyone had gone home. The handy chart gave Fred 2 data points. So Fred has the 2 data points. 40 people equals 3 minutes, and 280 people equals 21. Now, the first number is going to be what's called the first coordinate. It will be on the we'll call it the x coordinate, and the second coordinate will be the y coordinate, and it goes up and down. And you can remember that the y coordinate goes up and down because the y number itself, I mean the y, when you make a y, you have this part that goes right here, just like this. So it goes up and down. But Fred wants to plot 40 and 3 and 280 and 21. But if we just drew this out, we would have 0 through 10 on the x-coordinate, and we would have on the y, we would have 0 through 10. That's not going to hold either 40 or 280. So instead we have to change the scale. We have to use different numbers so that we can get our coordinates in there. So I created a graph so that we could plot out our points here. Our first coordinate is going to be on the it's going to be the x coordinate, and the other second coordinate is going to be the y coordinate. So we have an x coordinate of 40 and a y coordinate of 3, an x coordinate of 280, and a y coordinate of 21. And again, y goes up and down, and that's the y coordinate is the one that goes up and down. So we can plot our points now. Let me get a bigger size of pen here. I can plot the first one, which would be 40 and 3, but let me show you that when I did this, I had to go in increments of 100 on the bottom down here. I went 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, because he needs to get to 800 to figure out how long it's going to take him to make ice cream for 800. So he went in equal increments of 100, and then another 100 is 200, another 100 is 300, another 100 is 400, another 100 is 500, another 100 is 600, another 100 is 700, and another 100 is 800. So equal increments. He didn't go up 100 one time and 200 the next time. He went 100, 100, and 100. On our y side, he counted in tens because the highest number that he needs is going to be the 80. And so he went 0, 10, add another 10, we got 20, add another 10, we have 30, add another 10, we have 40, add another 10, we have 50, add another 10, we have 60, add another 10, we have 70, add another 10, we have 80. So this side, the y side, went up in increments of 10, and the x side went up by increments of 100. And that's okay. The two sides don't have to be the same, but each side, the numbers have to go up in the same distance, 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, or 100 plus 100. You can't do 10 plus 100 plus 10 and mix it up along the same line. So we can plot our first coordinate here, which is 40 and 3. And so 40 is going to be over here, and 3 is going to be about right there. So 40 and 3 is going to be about right there. 280 and 21 is going to be about right there. So 40 and 3, we have 40 right here and 3 right there. So that was that data point. This is 280, so 280 is about right here, and 21, which is about right there. And so that's my second data point. Okay. So what Fred needs to know is how long it's going to take him for 800 people. He knows he wants to have 800 people, but he doesn't know how many minutes it's going to take to do that. So if he drew a line straight through the original two data points that we have, the 40 and 3 and the 280 and 21, and they drew a straight line, this is hard to draw a straight line on this, so it should be absolutely straight, but I couldn't. I made a little blimp right there. But if we drew our straight line all the way straight up, we see that the point then at 800 is on the 60. And so our next data point, we're going to have 860. And so by plotting and then drawing a straight line through it, we can see exactly, we can figure out what he doesn't know. that a data point of 40 and 3, of 280 and 21, draw a line through that, and you end up going through the 860. So we were able to find out the missing number. And so 60 means it's going to take 60 minutes before the ice cream would be done to serve 800 people. So what's the big deal about these coordinates is that scientists and engineers, they take these kinds of numbers, these data points, and they can make estimates on what's going to happen. They can draw their lines, they can plot the points they have, and then they can make predictions. Okay, it's your turn to play, and make a note on the sheet that it's from page 95. Now, the first thing I want you to do is look at, go back to, I believe it's slide 11, where I drew the graph and that showed you the 800 and the 60 data points. And look at how long you think it would take the machine to make ice cream for 400 people. Okay, so that means that we know that the x-coordinate would be 400, but we don't know what the y-coordinate would be. So look at the graph I made, find 400 on the line that represents x, and then go up to where my line that's cutting across the whole page is, and see what number that is. And that's the answer for number 1 on that coordinate. And remember, we know that we'd figured out the 200, we had 221, we had 40 and 3, we had 860, and now you have to figure out the 400 and what. Figure that number out, and you just got to go back to slide 11 to do that. Okay. So number 2 is look at the graph and estimate how long you think it would take for 600 people. So this time you're going to look back to that same graph on, I think, slide 11, and figure out the x and the y coordinate. So you should be able to figure out what the y should be, just like you did in number 1. So looking at this, I redrew the graph here, just not all of it, but part of it, because I wanted to talk about what we're doing here. It's a function. This whole thing, this graph illustrates what's called a function. Good word to remember. It represents a function. And a function there's 2 parts of it. There is a domain, and in this case the domain is the number of people, and then there's a codomain, and in this case is the minutes. So graphing things like this and being able to guess what another data set on the graph, this is a function. We have a domain and we have a codomain. And so number 3 question is for you to answer the question, what is the codomain on the graph I just showed you on the previous slide. What is the codomain? Okay, so you're a manufacturer and you make TVs, and on the very first TV you put a serial number of 1, and the second one will say 2, 3, 4, all the way up until you sell every person to 300 million people. That would be the number on the serial number on the last TV. So how would you write that number, 300 million? How many digits do you think you need? So write that number. You can look above the whiteboard in the classroom and see if you can figure out how would you write the 300 million down, and how many digits do you think that is. For number 5, you're asked to divide 1026 equally into 27 parts. Well, We already know you have to divide here, so work out this division problem right there for number 5. Okay, question 6 is, if you were to carve 1 horse in 2 hours and you did 9 horse statues in 6 hours, how long would it take you to carve 3 statues? And so here's the big hint, is I'm giving you 2 data points here to do. We have 1 and 2 and 9 and 6. And so you're going to have to draw your a graph, and on the X would be the horses, the number of horses, which we have 1 and 9, so you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on the Y axis, we would have how many hours it took, so you're going to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. And so then after you lay out your graph, you're going to mark 1, find 1 and 2, and then 9 and 6, and then you're going to draw a straight line through them, and then you can answer the question of how long to carve 3 statues, and because you need to know how many hours. So then you just find the 3, go up on your line that you draw, and that will tell you. Okay? Okay, and after you've done that, I want you to work on your honey cards. If you don't have honey cards, then you can work on your jelly cards, or you can correct any math that needs corrections that I handed back to you. Okay?